Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mindful Metal Jacket. This is a little bit of a funky one. I am upstairs in a house on the water. I'd show it to you, but the shade is closed right now. And I forgot to do an intro. Quite frankly, I'm up here on vacation, but I got a great episode for you. Andrew just got out of the shower. I was swimming in the ocean quite a bit. And I can tell you this is a mindfulness podcast, a mental health podcast. Nothing heals quite like the ocean. Get yourself in it. If you live in the Midwest, take a trip, for God's sakes. I'm in Maine. The water is cold. I think that actually heals more. It helps. Oh my God, you're going to be dizzy if you watch this on YouTube. Jesus Christ. I got to get it under control. I'm holding it. Coldy? Icy cold water in the North Atlantic. Fantastic. Nothing heals like that. Time with family can heal and harm. But here, trying to be mindful, listening to the Waking Up app by Sam Harris in the morning, and touching base with some friends, but basically out of it, not looking online, staying away from social media, swimming in the ocean, hiking, spending time with family, the youth of the family. You can hear some of them talking out there. Anyways, thanks for listening. Hope you had a great 4th of July. Hope you're happy. Hope you're healthy. Great episode today. Andrew Schiavone, who's hilarious, and Steve Rogers, who you know, third time on the show. He's a regular. It's Steve and Andrew, both on the show. They have a podcast called Panic Attacking. Please go check that out. Very similar podcast to mine. Theirs was first. Check it out. Nobody knows who they are there, so it doesn't really matter, let's be honest. But you should know who they are. They're hilarious. They're great guys. And this is a good episode. You'll see why they're fun and why their show is great. So check it out. I don't have a great quote ready, but here's one from Elwood Blues. Do what you feel and keep both feet on the wheel. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Enjoy this conversation with Andrew Schiavone, Steve Rogers. Check them both out. They're absolutely hilarious. And check out their podcast, Panic Attacking. I know you'll love it. Thank you.
Did you tell them we're recording? Did you tell them that we're already recording?
Yes.
All right, great. I'm here with Steve Rogers. Don't turn that dial, everybody. There's another person coming. I feel like people are going to be like, oh, it's the third time with Steve. Great.
I'm glad that you
worry.
specified it because it's the third time and not just because it's me.
No, you're like the winner. You're the leader. You were one of the first episodes ever. Here comes Andrew Schiavone one day. You were one of the first episodes ever, and then we did election night 2016. Remember?
That's right.
That was fun.
2016
or 2020, whatever. Andrew.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we're already recording. I hope that's okay. You're live.
Oh my God, the pressure's on.
Yeah.
I wanted to just double check. Is this too distracting behind me?
No.
What?
I can do virtual background.
No, virtual's distracting.
Yeah,
I'll tell you
that's
what's
what I feel like,
distracting,
too.
though. It's very bright on your face. You look like a ghost. You look ghostly.
I am very pale. All right. What about? Oh, this is worse.
You just made it.
Yeah.
Damn it.
That's all right. Looks great. You look great. You look like powder.
Great. Yeah, that's that gets all the ladies.
Did you guys see that film? You guys were probably 7 when Powder came out.
I remember seeing the trailer when I was a kid, and I was like scared of him. He looks scary.
That's a perfect way to get into an anxiety podcast. Afraid of Powder. But no, I agree, because he looked a little AIDSy and white. Yeah.
Yeah, it's somebody you don't see often. If you saw Powder like in an elevator, you'd probably be like, "Is he going to give me something?"
It's a good point. I have to be honest, I never saw the film, but I remember Powder came out at the same time, the same weekend, I believe. Someone could fact check me, as The Truman Show. And The Truman Show was like this big deal, although I'm not a big fan of the movie, but it was a huge deal. And I remember a bunch of people from my high school, they couldn't get into The Truman Show because they bought tickets late, or they showed up late or whatever, and they had to go see Powder. And it was like a running gag. And like, enjoy powder, you fucking losers. So,
I mean, the Truman Show is really bad. I just don't know why anyone would want to watch him as a baby, like 24/7.
that was my thing with that movie. And it was ahead of its time. And now I'm just doing my other podcast. Check out Joe and Ron on Talk Movies. But that I never made sense to me. I understand it was ahead of its time and this reality show thing. We're going to follow a life, which it did predict the future well with TikTok.
Yes.
Everything's on the thing.
Streaming.
But the idea of that show being successful the first 2 years is insane.
Mhm.
Yeah. Would you ever Twitch stream just a baby living? You know, like,
Yeah.
no, it would be horrible.
I'm jealous of Truman because he's not worried about how many likes he's getting.
That's true. Yeah.
But Ed Harris has to worry for him. But also, I never understood the scene where he's like, I bet it'll be a lady on a bike, a car, and a whatever.
Mhm.
But they're all mic'd. So why wouldn't the director just be like, okay, stop the bike, hold the bike?
Right.
And then immediately she could be like, yeah, no, they didn't come by. It's got some flaws, obviously. But by the way, you can see Steve boiling, who just Jim Carrey's his god, and I feel like he's gonna snap.
Oh no, I'm actually, that's not my movie. I want him 100% funny, and that one I think differs from that. Also, I always think about the syndrome that it created, where people think that they're in the Truman Show. Like people think that that's a thing.
They think like the camera's on them, you mean?
Yeah, there's people that think that they're like the whole world is acting around them. Like it's an actual syndrome.
Steve, can I ask, do you have a mic stand, but also you're holding the mic stand?
Yeah.
It's like a Rolling Stones guy.
It's short, so and so is the mic stand. But so I have to put it on my lap.
I see. It just feels like you could just hold the microphone.
All right, I'll hold it.
I mean, do whatever you want. I just thought it was funny. You look like Freddie Mercury when he had the half mic stand, who also had AIDS, ironically.
Yeah,
it's true.
Powder.
I gotta tell you, Joe, real quick. That reminded me when I first saw you perform. Well, we were in the green room together at New York Comedy Club, and you came off the stage, and I was like, "That was great." And you said, "No, that set had AIDS," and then you just stared at your phone and didn't talk to anybody, and then you left.
I don't remember that at all. Jesus.
Do you say that often when you have a bad set?
No, that doesn't even sound like something I would. I mean, it sounds like something I would say, but it doesn't. It's not really not in my repertoire.
It was part of a rant. You said that sucked. That set had AIDS, and then you left the green room.
Oh, geez. I hope I wasn't. Did I offend anybody? Was anyone upset?
No, I was worried for you. I didn't know. You seemed pretty upset.
Oh God,
Well,
I haven't been there in a while.
The set was in powder.
Oh, I see.
Speaking of powder, can you tell the difference between my head and the wall? Like,
Yeah,
I'm starting to be self-conscious now.
yeah. The wall's not bothering me. No, I'm only joking.
Am I blending in with my wall?
No, because
I was going to
the
say
TV
your wall has a nice haircut.
I'm hoping the headphones are framing.
Yeah, the headphones
tell.
work and the background work. But we got to get serious here. This is a serious, hard-hitting podcast. We're just goofing around and being goof nuts and talking
Let's get
movies.
serious. I'm going to take the mic out of the stand for this.
This is this is insane. We got to get together. First of all, the fact that Steve has a better setup than me is really bothering me. And also, you're so tan, Steve. You just look nice compared to Andrew, particularly.
I know, really. This is
My favorite
horrible.
thing is that our screens are next to each other, and it's literally what's happening right now. There's a wall in between you and I.
Oh, you mean you and I? Yeah, this is weird because Steve is in the same building that I'm in right now.
And I'm down the street.
And you're right down the street. And so we should all be together, but I don't know how to set up the camera. I don't have a studio. I got to do a thing because otherwise we'd be sitting three abreast on the couch. It would look ridiculous.
Right. Well, I'll give you an anxiety thing to get it back to anxiety is I record a podcast with Andrew, and the first half hour is us having a little anxiety meltdown about the cameras and the lighting and everything. It's
not part of the podcast for anyone.
No, it's just private.
Off there.
We just freak out. Like, is this right? Are people going to care about this? And we never hear anything from anybody. It's just for our own anxiety.
Well, that's
Because
what's.
it
Oh,
looks
go
good.
ahead. No, you go in.
And it ends up looking good, but we have to go through that bickering for a half hour.
So you make it work. I mean, that's like, it's metaphorical. It's like life. You got to go through all this stuff and it ends up being fine always.
That's true.
But you don't have to go through that stuff. That's the real lesson here. But also, you guys don't have an audience, so that helps.
Yeah, we can't get negative reviews if there's no one listening.
Because I have an audience and it's in my head, and it's because every time they'll be upset with this, that this was too silly, or we should be together, or they're like, you should go back to Zoom. And everyone always has the opposite complaint. Somebody's like, you're too liberal, and someone else is like, you're alt-right, and then this is
geez.
Yeah, I get both. And then the sound, we should be doing this, and we should be doing that. I'm having buzzing in my ear. Are you guys hearing that, or is that my tinnitus acting up?
It might be your tinnitus.
It might be your cell phone on your headphones or near it.
No.
Okay, sometimes that happens to me.
Oh, I think I just have. I think it's just. Do you guys get this every once in a while? Because Sarah gets it, which makes me feel better. I have constant buzzing. That's why I need a little sleep noise thing, because I have like. But every once in a while, it'll go like aggressive, like a fucking car bomb just went off in a movie where it's like, and you go like deaf for a second. You guys ever get that?
No.
Sometimes when I'm really hungry, but that usually means I'm about to pass out or something.
When you're hungry, you get it?
Yeah, when I'm hungry, my vision kind of gets blurry and I hear ringing.
How hungry are you?
Well, I get pretty hungry.
He's so hungry he swallowed a landmine, apparently.
I'm trying to do intermittent fasting. So when I first did that, it was brutal with the ringing and the blurriness.
What do you do? How many hours? 16?
I usually stop eating at 8 and then start eating at 12:31. I don't know how long that is.
Yeah, that's about 8 hours in between. That's 16:8.
Yeah. Okay.
And are you still doing it? Do you like it?
Yeah. It's just so, if I eat late, I can't sleep. I'm too bloated and I feel horrible. I think because of the guilt too. I don't know. But so now I have to do it just to sleep right.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Well, I have this reflux issue, and so I don't eat within like 3 or 4 hours. But it is better. It's great. I was just thinking about this last night. I was talking about it because, Steve, I see you ordered Domino's, and you're living the life I led like a few years ago. It's insane to me to think now that I used to eat like a DiGiorno pizza and 2 Cokes at like 1 a.m. and go straight to bed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Insane. But Steve, you're doing that now.
And Domino's. I
didn't have Domino's last night.
I didn't say last night. I'm saying in general. I know you like Domino's.
Oh,
yeah.
Man. This is a secret I never knew.
I will say the last couple of times Joe's been over, there's been Domino boxes everywhere. Like it looks like I'm building a fort.
Yeah, and there's ironically your cat's in the background. There's been Domino boxes everywhere. We go over their house. It's just piles of pizza crust and Domino's, and all of a sudden we got 2 mice in our house.
No.
Ooh.
2 mice.
And I heard there was flies as well.
All right. Is it?
I don't have flies. You got flies?
I don't have flies.
I thought they're in the hallway, Steve.
There was Joe gave me crap about flies at one point, and that's what we were talking about.
All right. Well, so I'm a little suspect because I let my two buddies move into my home. And first of all, they almost got kicked out because they threw a fucking rager in the backyard.
On our recent episode, I kind of gave Steve a hard time about it.
Yeah.
By the way,
you spilled the beans, Joe. Oh, yeah. It's Panic Attacking Podcast. Similar to this, except we talk about what made us anxious this week. We sometimes have a therapist guest and we sometimes have a comic guest who has anxiety.
Oh, wow. That sounds very much like mine. But
well, ours was first.
Ours came out first.
Yeah, but people heard mine first. But we got to get it. We got to get it together here. This is like silly. I mean, this is jokey fun. But no, Steve brought mice into my house. But this is Steve's 3rd time on my podcast, so nobody gives a shit about him. Andrew, let's get into you because I don't really know you. I heard you're a funny guy. I don't know. I said AIDS to you once. I feel bad about it. But now you're a complete mess as well. Is that right?
That's absolutely right. I'm a different mess than Steve and maybe you. I have a lot of social anxiety triggers and all that. I see therapists about it, and I've had this my whole life.
Now, what do you when you talk about social anxiety? What are you talking? Because you're in the green room at New York Comedy Club. What is it? I assume you've improved a bit, but what is it like when you're walking into a comedy club? Are you is your heart rate going up? Or you're like, oh my God, this is going to suck. Everyone's going to hate me. What is it? What does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it feel like?
Well, New York, I've been there a couple of years, so I feel comfortable there. So I walk in, I tend to know all the comics and know the staff. So I'm good there. Like I feel kind of comfortable there. But if I go to a place I'm not passed at or welcomed at, I'm a kind of a mess. I just, my knees lock and I kind of just stand weird, like I constantly feel like I'm bothering somebody, like I don't go up to a group or I just stand there and I hope somebody's like, hey, who are you?
Yeah, that's not unlike Steve. Steve, I feel like you're similar to that in some ways. You always think you're bothering somebody.
Yeah, I constantly think I'm a burden.
Like there's this new show in Astoria and I kind of wanted to hang out there yesterday. It's at like McLaughlin's bar on Broadway. So I was like, you know what? I got to like amp up. Things are opening. I'm going to show more face and hang out more. And then I went there and I started like looking in the windows just to scope out the situation.
Sure.
And the bartender saw me and he was like, come on in, we're open. And, I can't talk to him. I just want to see if the comedy show is still happening or if it's good. And then I see the producer, like there's a back room. So I go in because I saw the producer who posted about the show and I'm about to talk to him. And I just completely roll my ankle in front of the bartender and the producer. And I just leave, I just get out of there. I should have just sent a message. Me going there hurt my chances of getting booked.
Yeah, it's like George Costanza. My presence in that office can only hurt my chances. How did you roll? What did you roll your ankle on?
There was like a little incline when you walk to the bar, and it kind of was like not centered with the floor, so I kind of stepped off of that, and then I had to catch myself on a pool table.
Oh Jesus, that's the worst. But no, I relate to that so much, and I still have that now. Particularly now, I'm like in my head with like Brooklyn shows. When I do a Brooklyn show, because first of all, it's just such a young, hip, woke area. So I feel like I'm on it. In my mind, everybody in Brooklyn has listened to my podcast. They've heard me say, come in my face and homo or whatever. And so they're all like, here comes this. And I'm friends with Louis. So I feel like they're like, this guy's friends with the rapist. He's friends with Ari Shaffir. He's got to be a piece of shit. That's going on in my head. And then there's also this thing where the longer you're doing comedy or in any business, the more people you've met and the more people you're like, I think I'm supposed to know that person. I think that person knows who I am. And a lot of times in comedy, particularly with podcasts, people go, hey, List. And I never have actually met them. So I'm always afraid I'm going to offend everybody or everyone's going to be mad at me. And that thing, a lot of these Brooklyn shows, it's at an apartment or in a bar. And you're like, I don't know where to stand. I don't know where we go. I don't know where people hang. I don't know who hates me. So I relate. And it's stressful the whole time. And you're just hoping for that one person. Do you guys have like lists of people that you're like, if I see this person, I'm like, great, thank God.
All the time. Yeah. It's just somebody that I kind of known a while in the scene. And then if I don't know them a while, I kind of feel like I'm bothering them. So I hope they say hi to me first.
Right.
Well, you know what I mean?
Then I have a thing too that I'm like, because this has happened before. I've experienced this from the outside. I remember like 20 years ago or whatever, 17 years ago, doing a gig. I still live in Boston. I was doing a gig in New York. It was like a contest. There was a bunch of Boston people there. And then all these New York people were all standing in a circle. It was like Julian McCullough, Kurt Metzger, Big J, and Vecchione was there. And it was guys I knew of, but I didn't really know. And I remember there was a Boston comic, and we were sitting over here, and he was like, dude, when you move to New York, don't become like these cliquey assholes who don't talk to anyone else. And I remember thinking even then, I'm like, well, aren't we doing the same thing? I think they just know each other. And I hear that a lot in comedy. And I guess most businesses are like this. They're like, oh, they're cliquey. Those are club guys. Or these guys. And I'm like, I'm just talking to people I know. I would be happy for you to come over here and start talking. I just am terribly shy. I'm not like some elitist. I just don't know how to start talking to other people.
Yeah, the worst is when you walk into a place and there's already like a circle of a conversation and no one invites you in. Like, what do you do in that situation, Joe? Do you just stand or do you go into the group?
Well, now this is where the phone comes in, and it's like a blessing and a curse because it allows you to go, I can at least pretend, I'll sit over here and pretend I'm really working. But the whole time I'm like, I want to be socializing. I want to hang out. I want to make friends. But you're like, they're not welcoming me and I don't feel comfortable going in there.
Yes.
So I'll just look at my phone. And Doug Stanhope had a great bit about this 25 years ago about, I used to have this too, and I'd go to bars and you just pretend to be watching whatever bullshit's on the TV. You really want to be social, but you're like, oh, I'm just really into this. I forget what his example was. I really like international lacrosse game. And you sit there and you really stare. But I have that constantly.
Yeah.
I was doing that with cell phones before they had apps. Like I remember I had a flip phone in like middle school or whatever, and just being like, oh no, I'm in my phone, but there's like nothing on it.
I just playing Snake. Like, how fun could that be?
It's hard, and I get jealous because some people, like Sean Donnelly's a guy. Sean, he's a guy.
Yeah,
that there's some people that just got that social thing, or they're comfortable, or they're not self-conscious. They just walk in and go, "What's up, guy? How you doing?"
Yeah.
And like they just start talking to people, which is funny because, again, years ago, Donnelly came on a gig to Boston, and he was drunk, and he just started going, "What's up, guy? Look at these guys. What's going on?" And I'm like, "We're gonna get beat up," because I grew up there, and I'm like talking to strangers in Boston. You'll get like fucking bottles. Someone will smash a bottle over your head, and he's like, "What? I'm hanging out. What's up? This guy knows I'm getting." And I'm like, "No, they hate you. They hate us." You can't, which I think is like part of it. For me, I don't know about you guys. I'll say my thing and volley it back to one or both of you. But my family, we were always together. It was like 25 people. It was a big extended family. But we never went out to other groups. My family was never part of the community. It was always us. And it was just, if someone else came in, they're like, who's this person? What's going on? Who's that guy? I don't like that guy. And so we never branched out. My family is still like that. And like I said, also, maybe this is in my head, but in New England, people were very standoffish a lot of the times. And so it was like, if you're like, "Hey, do you guys want to have a beer?" They're like, "Why? What's up with you? You want to fuck?" And you're like, "Shit, never mind." So
Right.
I think that was part of it. Does that jive with any of you?
Pyramid scheme? Is that what you're doing?
Andrew, where are you from?
Washington, D.C., Virginia. And same thing, my dad and my mom, we didn't even have an extended family. They grew up in Philly and then moved to D.C. by themselves. And they really didn't have any friends or anything. And we would go. I remember we got invited to a block party and the neighbor asked me, and I went to my dad. I'm like, "We should go. It sounds fun." And he's like, "Nah."
I think
they actively avoided socializing, and I think it affected me a lot.
I think he said a black party.
Oh,
which is
it's similar.
Yeah, I guess so. But my family was the same too. Like we had the big baseball parade with the start of the baseball season. I remember everyone seemed to know each other, and we just didn't talk to anybody. It was weird. And
you think it's genetics that affected your anxiety? I think it's a mixture of both for me. I think I have like my dad's DNA of not wanting to talk to people.
Well, I mean, my therapist believes, and I believe whatever he believes because he's my God, but I think it's learned behavior. I don't think there's some DNA blood thing in if you pricked your finger, they wouldn't be like, "Oh, he's an introvert." It's learned. It's learned behavior, right? I mean, Steve?
I agree. I just know, anxiety is instinct, but I think that social anxiety is definitely learned behavior.
Yeah, I think all this stuff is learned. Wait, I had another story or something about baseball. Oh, my first day, and I think I've talked about this before on this podcast. I remember my first day of kindergarten. This is how you know it started really early in our lives. I never went to preschool for whatever reason. I've still never gotten that answer from my family, but I think it fucked me up.
Oh, wow.
Steve just graduated preschool a couple of weeks ago.
Well, you had to repeat it a couple times.
But so I never went to preschool. So I remember showing up to kindergarten first day with my mother, and she dropped me off, and I could not stop crying. And I remember thinking, and I heard Dave Chappelle say this in an interview, which I loved him forever after that. I loved him anyways, but he was like, it felt like everybody had met each other. Did you guys have that feeling? It felt like everyone was already socializing. It's just like you talked about a minute ago, Andrew. Like it felt like everyone was already chatting, and I walked in, and to this day, I still feel like that. Everybody knows each other. Everybody likes each other. And I'm just going, "Hey, everybody, what's up?"
Worst feeling ever. And yeah. And also I wanted to bring this up too. Do you ever feel like when you're and there's a group conversation and somebody's like, "Oh, hey, what's going on?" You ever feel like they're just like pitying you? I feel that sometimes too, where I'm like, it's okay. You don't have to talk to me.
Yes.
I know you're just doing this to be nice and you don't want to hear my story about how I got here.
Yeah, it's hard. And I have to do that too consciously in my mind when I'm having a conversation is like, okay, just breathe and listen and don't try to get through in my mind. I'm like, let me just get out of this.
Yes, all the time.
I just want this, not because I don't like the person or don't care about the person. I'm just like, this is stressing me. I can feel my heart rate going up and my eyes starting to like blink and I get all fucked up and I'm like, I can't wait this to be over.
Wow.
Because I do remember one time it worked. I think it was like first grade. It worked out where I was like, had to sit by myself at a table. You know, all the tables were filled and I had to sit by myself. And it was very traumatizing when you're young and you're sitting by yourself. And I remember this kid came over and was like, hey man, you're just by yourself. And I'm like, you don't have to talk to me. I know I'm alone. I like got all defensive that he was like, you know, pitying me or whatever.
Oh, but that guy's sweet. I love that guy.
I know, but I couldn't let him in my heart. You know, I was like, just go. It's okay. Sit with people.
No, I understand your feeling, but looking back now, I'm like, that's so sweet of that guy.
I know. Yeah. I should have, but I was already sitting by myself. So I was already a loser, you know, like the fact that he was nice to me, he should have did that at the beginning. I feel like.
Right.
I already was branded like, oh, this is the guy sitting by myself. And in my head, I'm like, everyone knows you're just being nice.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I feel like I have that moment a lot in group conversations and stuff where I'm like, oh, this guy is just doing this to be nice.
Well, anytime you see me in a comedy place, you come right over.
Well, you're gonna be that guy from first grade.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you. I'll bring you in. Steve, don't I bring you in?
You bring it in better than anyone. It's because you're someone that has the same feelings. When someone's like you, I think it's the best because they're like, I know exactly how this person's feeling and I know what to do.
Yeah, I try to get everybody involved. Andrew, how come you never come to the park hang?
I was gunning to last week, but then Steve got stuck at a cell phone store.
Yeah,
and I didn't want to go by myself. I wanted him. I wanted a +1.
Yeah, I hear you. Next time, I was going to do fucked us.
I was going to do the lunch table thing with Andrew, and then the lunch lady sat me down and took forever to switch my plan over.
I don't know if that makes sense, but I laughing.
I have another funny story, but while we're at it, let's plug the podcast early because a lot of people are going to bail on this before the end. The podcast is called Panic Attacking. Is that right?
Yeah, Joe, you've been a guest on over the summer, but our tech was really bad, so we would love to have you back.
Oh, that's right. I remember. Yeah, well,
the tech was the worst thing we ever. It was like one of our first Zooms.
Yeah, I remember that. It was horrendous.
that episode had AIDS.
Yeah. It was not good. I mean, it was a good podcast, but it was. I think you kept freezing, or I kept freezing.
I kept freezing. Yeah. I looked like a 16-bit Super Nintendo pixel. It was awful. And so we have it set up now at my apartment where we have like cameras and mics and stuff. But you have to hear us bicker for a half hour.
Oh, that's fine. I'll come. I wish you had 16 bits. Zinger. One time I was at. This is along these lines, but a little bit different than social anxiety. I guess it's somewhat anxiety, but talking about our personality types. But maybe I told Steve this before because I tried to do it as a bit, but whatever. I was at Burger King in Copley Plaza in Boston, and there's like an upstairs dining area. So I went in, and this is a city. It's like in the middle of the city. And I went and got my Burger King double cheeseburger, whatever. And it was on the tray. And I was like, I'm going to go upstairs. I'll sit up there and maybe I'll look out over Copley Square. So I walk up the stairs. And when I got to the top of the stairs, it was like 25 inner city high school kids. It was like a high school lunch. And there was like 25 teenagers. And I was like, shit. Like right away, I was like, fuck. I'm like I would have
turned right around.
A gangly nerd, but I could because I didn't want it to look racial. These are African-American kids. So I don't want to just see a group of black people and be like, never mind.
Right.
But I wish I had because I sat in the window like I had planned. I was like, all right, let's eat it. And right away, it was just like roast battle, except I didn't get a turn. It was like, look at this gangly whatever. And then they started like whipping food at me. Like they were like throwing fries. And I just sat there quietly with my back to them, eating my fucking sandwich as fast as possible and trying to act like, I don't even notice any of this.
That's my move too. Yeah.
It was like, look at
Awesome.
this goofy ass Harry Potter, yada yada, and just getting hit with ketchup packets and
Oh
French
my
fries.
God.
How
like
old were
10
you,
minutes.
Joe? How old were you?
I was an adult. I mean, I was in the
Oh
city
my
by
God.
myself. I'm probably 20, 22, 21, somewhere around then.
Oh man, that happened to me at 7-Eleven when I was
Last week.
when I was 2021, there was same kind of group at the checkout, and my buddy's like, let's just go. It's they were there, and I was like, no, I let's go. We're going out, so I got an energy drink, and the energy drink was one of those off-brand, and it had a weird cap that was round, and I went to pay, and they were like, you gonna stick that in your ass? And I was like, no, I'm just gonna drink it, and they just kept saying I'm gay, and it was humiliating. It ruined the whole night.
These guys sound like they should be guests on my podcast, Tuesdays with Stories. I love these guys.
And then my friend and I just walked out in shame, and same thing. We just stood there and took it. We couldn't do anything. I think we went home.
Well, that's the thing is like, what am I going to do in that situation? Like scold them, beat them up? Like you just
There's no
have to sit
comeback.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're the one who looks like Harry Potter. They don't. You know what? You're kind of at the disadvantage there. You can't say no, you do or something.
Yes. Nor can I be like, I'll tell you what you look like. I mean, it's gonna get ugly. I mean,
Right,
you can't even
exactly.
confuse people's names without being labeled an asshole.
One time I was waiting for Andrew at LOL, and they wouldn't let me upstairs, so I just waited out front. And a group of kids walked by and started calling me an undercover cop, and they started roasting me on how I was horrible at stakeouts. And they're like,
That's funny.
they're gonna report me to my chief and everything. And I'm like, Andrew, please come downstairs. It was the worst.
I think
And
they
I
went
can't
in.
do anything. I just
They
stood there
probably
and
went
took
into
it.
the show to give me a hard time.
Though at least those guys are funny. It's like hilarious.
Yeah, it's always funny, but it's like I don't know what to do, and I hate myself.
Right. Same. Well, this reminds me of, and Andrew, your story earlier reminded me of when I first started doing comedy in Boston. Well, I was around for like a year, and I did this one open mic, Chops Lounge, for a year, and I started doing a couple others. But the Comedy Connection was like the main club in Faneuil Hall. It was like this big A club where all these national headliners would come. It was an amazing room. I saw Regan there for the first time. I met DePaulo there and Colin Quinn, and it was amazing. But so I went there one time because my friend Lamont was like, you got to come hang out at the Comedy Connection. So I went and bought a ticket. I was like probably a year and a half into comedy. I was like 19, and I just bought a ticket and went and sat. And as I was walking in, like I saw all these comics hanging in the back corner where the comics hung. And I sat down, and my friend Lamont Price, who it like makes me emotional, he came over, and Steve's emotional. He's rubbing his eye. But my friend Lamont came over and goes, man, what the fuck are you doing? He's also black. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, get over it. You don't buy a ticket. The comic, you come hang out with the comics. And I felt goosebumps, and I still well up with emotion because it was like the nicest thing anyone's ever done for me in this business, my entire career.
That warms my
like,
heart.
Get out of here. Come over here.
We all need that guy. We need a Lamont.
Yeah.
You said no to that guy in the lunchroom, Andrew.
I know I did. And that reminds me of the first time I moved to New York. The Stand was just recently opened, and the same thing. I got a ticket because I wanted to show face, so they sat me right in the front. And Big J Okerson was like, "Has anyone else told you your sweater's gay?" And everyone laughed. And I'm like, "No." And then he just ragged on me for looking like I'm gay. And then I had to leave. I paid to get called that. It didn't help my career at all.
I have two stories like that. My friend Michael Sherman, who I love, and one of my best buds for years, he wanted to go see Robin Williams. Robin Williams was doing one night only at the Comedy Connection. And so he bought tickets, and because they were sold out, they were like, no guests, comics can't hang in the back. So we bought tickets. And I don't know if he bought them early or what, or if there was some jokester involved, but they put us front row, stage left, and the entire show, Robin Williams kept calling back to like, look at these fags over here. Couple of fags. And this is in back when you could say fags.
Right.
And I mean, it was a running gag. Like he would do a bit and he's like, and so then I divorced her because of these fags. Like everybody. And it was like 90 minutes of like us being like, whoop. And I worked there. It wasn't like I was a new comic who just moved to town. That was my home club. Like I knew the wait staff. They all knew me. They were on the back like, oh, he's trashing lists. Like it was brutal.
At least he's famous. You know, that's a good.
He was an Oscar winner. I mean, this is post Good Will Hunting.
Yeah, 24-hour photo.
Oh yeah, that's a movie.
That's amazing. I just saw it the other day. That's why.
Oh wow, yeah, that's a movie.
Wow, way to pick one of his greatest.
Yeah,
I know.
I mean,
I'm like,
Hey, from Hook.
that guy from 24-hour photo would call you a slur. You know.
yeah. Sorry, I'm using slurs with you guys. This is why I hate doing Brooklyn shows. I get nervous, but I'm quoting. I mean, what are you gonna do? I can't tell the story without quoting. That's
I know.
hilarious.
I just can't quote your quote.
Right, and it becomes a whole.
It loses relevance or whatever.
Yeah, I hear you. I apologize for putting everyone in an uncomfortable position, and I pardon my language. I hate myself. I'll kill myself at some point. But
the AIDS.
But the Lamont thing, I remember a few years ago, and we had one of my good buddies, Isabel Hagen, who wasn't my good buddy at the time. She's been on this show. She did New Faces at Montreal, and I was doing it. And she messaged me and was like, "Hey, I'm going to come to your show at the festival." And I wrote back, "Oh, don't come to my show because you know me. I live in New York. Go to any other show at the festival because you can see me anytime. That's ridiculous. We know each other." And she wrote back, "Well, I don't really know what show I don't even." And I realized, oh, this is one of these social anxiety thing of like, oh, I'll just go see the one person I know at this entire festival. Mm-hmm. And it reminded me the first time I did that festival was like, I don't know how to just walk into a show. What do? I just walk in and watch Mark Maron. So she came to my show and then was just like sitting there like a sad, lonely douche afterwards. And I was like, all right, hey, this is my chance to be Lamont Price. I was like, just come with me. Wherever I go, you just come along. And it was not, we ended up becoming friends, but that feeling of like, oh, I know what's going on. In my mind, I'm like, don't come to my show, you idiot. Go watch anybody. And she's like, no, I don't know anybody.
Yeah, it's always nice to have somebody you know in a foreign place or a different place.
Oh, yeah. Like the only shows I ever go hang out at, Joe is probably on it.
Mine are Steve. I'm a tier below.
Ouch.
He doesn't get out a lot.
We just have a little train going.
It's a caterpillar.
No,
that's why I wasn't at the park. He messed up the production stream.
I know.
Supply chain.
At least you're not making me feel bad about it.
But the park hang is nice. What's nice about the park hang is we're like seated in a circle. So it's a little more easy. Like, I just pull up in here where like a club sometimes feels, or especially those like comedy has the festivals, like the Just for Laughs Fest, there'll be like 500 people there. So it's so hard to find. And a lot of times I'm like, oh, I'm talking to this one asshole that I met at some club in Wyoming just because he's lonely. So I'm talking like the worst guy. And I'm like, I'd rather be in my room. I don't even like, this person's not interesting to me. And I could tell they're just want to talk to me because they're uncomfortable. But it's important to try to remember that everybody else is going through their own anxiety. Nobody's as comfortable as we think they are, I think.
Right.
And that's my nightmare, being that guy, the Wisconsin loser comic. You know, I don't want to be him at a party. And also, do you ever have so like Steven and I went to Graham K's birthday party a week ago, and there was a situation where everyone was in a circle, but there were some empty seats, some, you know, mostly were filled. But I had this thing where I was like, well, I don't want to take anyone's seat, so I'm just going to keep standing. You ever have that, Joe? What do you do when there's empty seats at a circle? Do you just sit down confidently, or do you ask people, or do you not even engage with it?
I don't know. I guess. I mean, it's hard. I mean, it gets my heart rate up. I mean, there's no better feeling to me. And Sarah, my wife, is similar, which is we've bonded over, is like getting out once you're outside of a social situation and you're like, woo, we did it. We did it. I'm like, I'm proud of you. I saw you talking to that guy. That was good. Did you see me talk to that guy? And it is like when you're like, okay, we did it. We got it in. We go home. But it's hard. I mean, like it is very difficult. I don't know. It's a strange situation. Sometimes you sit and let people come to you. That's like a better method. But I can't tell you how many times I've walked all the way to the back wall of a party and then turned around and walked right back out the front.
And leave?
Yes.
Oh,
or just like start the process over again. Like you're back to the front and then you're like, maybe I'll walk to the back again. Like you just keep walking, waiting for someone to stop you and be like, hey.
Right. Yeah, I do that. I pretend to go to the fridge or something and I just open it and close it.
if Andrew wasn't at Graham's party, I would have been gone in 3 seconds.
I mean, it's so funny because we both got invited separately and we didn't tell the other one we were going because we didn't think the other one was invited.
That's hilarious. I've done that many times too. I've done that with like weddings. We're like,
oh yeah,
you get to the wedding and you see like your best friend. You're like, hey, I didn't know you were coming. You're like, I didn't know you were coming.
Oh man. But those park hangs and like that's why I like Joe. Like I like what you do because those park hangs, I'll be sitting in a circle. I've worked with those comics, but I'm like, they're not going to remember me. There's no way they know who I am. And then Ryan Hamilton's like, hey, how's it going, man? It's been a while. And I'm like, oh, I was in my head. Like
Ryan's the nicest. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just like, that's the first time I made eye contact with Vecchione and not like left. It's like, is those circles eliminate that anxiety?
Well, I think particularly with comics too. And I try not to ever be like, well, comics wear this way because I feel like that's done too much. And I feel like everyone's more similar than we act. But I do feel like comics are particularly in their head constantly because I think a lot of times with a lot of other professions, they can put it away. They're like, I'm a cop, but here I am just sitting here in the park. I'm off duty. But comics, it feels like you're always like, what time's my next set? What should I be doing now? And I think other professions do that as well. Again, I don't want to sound like excluding, but
I agree, Joe. And I want to say, I think we're the most self-aware profession too, because we got to listen to our sets. We constantly get a reaction based on what we say. So even in conversations, I'm like, was that the thing I'm about to say? Is this good? You know, like I kind of like always, I'm too self-aware in social situations too. And I think comedy's helped it and hurt it, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also coming into my head. I'm like, what if I've lost it? Nothing funny is coming up. And then you get like, sometimes you get like introduced as being funny, or this guy's a comedian when you're at those things and you're like, oh, Jesus. And I feel all the time, especially on the road, like meeting fans and stuff, that I am like horribly disappointing people.
Me too.
And I
overcompensate by talking to them a really long time. So they get like, you ever do that? Like, I'm like, I haven't given them their worth yet, my worth yet.
Yes, exactly. And
I of us could go on way too long and it's uncomfortable for both of us.
Well, you guys have a podcast together, so you'll be connected, but I have the podcast with Mark, obviously, which is what most people know me for. And Mark is so social and silly and goofy and on that I'll come and people are like, we hung out with Mark. We went bowling with Mark. We went to this mic. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Gotta go. I'll see you later. And people are like, do you want to go to this bar show in Bumble Tits? And I'm like, no,
not really. I'm going to go watch a movie.
I've done that one.
I got no lines. I just keep going. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I have my head down. I just feel like they hate me. Nobody gives a fuck. They're just like, they're so disappointed. And,
but what's the ideal thing? What's the ideal ending to that? Go bowling with them for 4 hours? Like, who has the time and the mental willpower?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like I'll disappoint, and there should be some distance, don't you think? I mean, like Bruce Springsteen's not shooting pool with me, for God's sake.
No, and you just gave them the show. Like you gave them the thing that they came for. I don't think people come for the hang after.
Yeah, I remember. This is like a big moment in my life where obviously I'm a big Pearl Jam guy and I've seen him 40 something times. And I went and saw him at Madison Square Garden. I got a text after the show, amazing show, fucking 3-hour thing. It's like a spiritual event for me. And I'm leaving and I'm sweating and I've lost my voice and my ears are ringing because of the music, not because I'm stressed. And I'm like, what a night. And I get a text and a friend of mine is like, hey, I just got some inside knowledge. Pearl Jam is heading to Molly Wee Pub right now. My God. And I'm like, I'm better at this now, but I had no mindfulness practice at the time. I'm like, we got to go. Come on. Yeah. And like, we're heading home to a diner. It's the best night of my life. I'm like, come on, let's go. I don't even drink. We go to this bar. So now I'm at the bar and I meet up with a couple people and there's a few of us hanging. And I'm just watching the door. Every time the door opens, I'm like, oh, is that Eddie? Is that? Huh? And we're sitting there for like an hour. I'm not listening to anybody.
Right.
Because I keep looking to see if Pearl Jam's coming in. And I had this realization of like, what am I doing? What's going to happen when they come in? They're just going to sit at a booth and I'm going to look at them.
That's exactly what would happen.
I'm like, I have a relationship with this band. They record music. I listen to it. They perform live. I come, I watch the show. They sing to me. I sing along. I go, woo, and then I leave. That's the relationship.
Right.
What am I going to do? Just hunk up at the bar. Hey, Mr. Vetter, I'm in entertainment too. Like, I don't need to be friends with these people.
Have you played the Comedy Connection?
You know what I mean? It's just, that's the relationship. They perform, I consume it. They get my money. They get the thrill of having entertained, and I get the thrill of enjoying the music. I don't need to sit at a bar and try to look at them or meet them.
Yeah, I know. I'm same way. And after shows, I when I was younger, I would go with my brother. We would hang around the backstage entrance where they unloaded the bus all the time. And, we would just look at them, load up their equipment, and that was it. We were too nervous to talk to them. Well, and I'm like, why do we always do this?
A lot of it too is ego. In my mind, I'm like, I hung out with Pearl Jam. I want that photo, and I want the story of like, I fucking hung out with those guys. I know them. And in reality, it's just better to be like, yeah, I've seen them a bunch. They're amazing. That being said, I hung out with a Beatle, and it was pretty cool.
You hung out with a Beatle?
Yep.
Which one?
That's right.
George, he went to his grave.
It was George Martin. So it was Paul McCartney. I met Paul McCartney after a show, and we chatted for a while.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting.
Have you ever talked about that on anything?
Yeah, I told you it's an epic, but this is my debut version of the story.
Yeah, he just brought it up nonchalantly.
Well, I'll listen to that. I don't want to have you repeat it.
It was an epic episode of Tuesdays with Stories. I have a podcast called Tuesdays with Stories, and it was pretty epic. It was wild. I met Bruce Springsteen at the same party.
My God.
Yeah.
One time I saw Larry King brought up Paul McCartney. I guess Larry King was the guest, and then Paul McCartney he walked by Larry King, and Larry King was like, "I want you to meet my son," and Paul McCartney was like, "Hello," and he just kept walking, and I was like, "Oh man, that was brutal." I think Larry King was expecting Paul to talk to his son.
Oh, geez. Well, what can you do? But
I was thinking
that's cool that you talked to him. You got more attention than Larry King.
Yeah, Larry King stinks. What are you gonna say, Steve?
I was thinking that on the topic of meeting the people, I was thinking of that Adam Sandler story when he met Rodney Dangerfield. He goes up to Rodney and he's like, "Hey, Rodney, you're great, man. You're like the reason I got into comedy." And Rodney was like, "Oh, that's great, kid." And then Adam goes, That's it." And Rodney goes, "What do you want me to do? A fucking backflip?"
Yeah, it's crazy our expectations when we tell somebody something.
Yeah. So I think that's the thing with the after shows. There's not so much more that you can do than saying thank you.
Yeah, it's hard. Well, how about this past weekend, Steve and I were in Des Moines together, West Des Moines Funny Bone.
I'm so glad you're going to tell this story.
Oh my God. We're standing behind a table. There's a little table where you do like a merch table. We don't have merch. So we're just standing behind it to kind of give distance. And then not because of COVID, just because of social anxiety, but this guy,
I'm listening.
A guy from the audience, like a big sort of truck drivey muscle Iowa guy. I don't know what I think he just thought we were standing there having a chat. So he just came and was waiting for his girlfriend who was in the bathroom, and he stood up against the table with his back to us in the table, just standing here like this. So we're there to meet and greet. The entire, and he was one of the first people out. The entire audience walks through, and he's standing in front, he's boxing us out like Charles Barkley under the hoops. And he's just standing there the whole time, the entire time, the audience. And so nobody's even saying hello, no pictures, no autographs, because this man is consuming the space. And then dumb Steve is like, "Is this guy kidding? Is he fucking kidding?" And the guy's hears him. He's looking back. I'm like, Steve, shut the fuck up. This guy's going to shoot us with his rifle that's attached to his truck. Oh but it was hilarious. And then eventually he left and we couldn't stop laughing. But he just totally blocked us out, boxed us out. And it was genuinely unclear if it was a bit, but I think he was just sort of clueless. Just standing there.
I think he was clueless, but the comedic, the comedy of it, because he walked towards us, and I'm like, oh, another fan that's going to talk to Joe. And as he got to the table where you would say hello, then he spins around.
Yeah.
So it was just amazing. He was like literally shutting the door on us with his bat.
And didn't even smile, wink. He did not acknowledge that for an hour and 10 minutes, the two of us had been standing there talking and entertaining him. That's what I think is strange. And some of it is their social anxiety. We have to be sensitive to other people's social anxiety. But it's interesting when you stand for like a meet and greet and the audience puts their head down and just walks right by. I'm like, you don't have to buy anything or say hello or say thank you. Just a smile, like just like acknowledge that I was just speaking to you for an hour and I'm standing here. It's so like, but that's like, you talk about social anxiety. To me, meet and greet after a show is the most anxiety inducing part of the entire career. Like that's more stressful than doing a set on TV to me.
Yeah, it's bad because you want to talk to everybody. You want to give everyone an experience, but then there's too many and you feel like you're talking to one and then there's a line. And then, Steve and I did a show. Where was that, Steve? Last December? It was
it was in New Hampshire. I'm blanking on the
Manchester, New
Hampshire. Yeah.
It was at a theater. It was like a mini theater. And then we had fans come up from Boston. How many were there, Steve? It was like 10.
Yeah, 10 listeners.
We set up our table. We had like merch, stress balls we sell with the podcast on them. And they were just staring at us. We were staring at them. We're like, you drove here for us. Come over. And then they came over and I kind of freaked out. I was squeezing both of the balls. I let Steve do all the talking.
It was they came from Boston and they left and we're like, hey, great show. Message us on Instagram. And I'm like, come back in here and we'll say hello.
I forgot that's what happened. They left. They just walked by us.
Yeah, they were afraid to say hello, but we were also afraid that they hated the show.
And yeah, we were self-conscious.
And we came back and addressed our fears, and they're like, we were scared too. And then it was way better, and it was fun. And
we were both thinking the same thing, like the other one didn't want to talk to us.
Yeah, I think that's always the way. I'll get that with fans too after shows. They're like, I know you hate me. I know you hate talking to everybody. I'll get out. They just like run away. And I'm like, no, I'm not a psycho.
Right.
I'm like, there's just people, it's one extreme or the other. There's some people that just like sit down and will talk to you for like a half hour and start telling you crazy stories or insane jokes. But other people will just like, they'll message you later and be like, I came to the show. I wanted to say hi, but I know you're a piece of shit and you hate me. So I just didn't say anything. And I'm like, no, say hello. Yeah. It means the world to me. That's why I'm out there.
Yeah.
Right. As I want to say hello to people and hear people say nice things if they want to say nice things. But it's just a balance. It's just like, I always think there should be like a shot clock. Like, all right, you got 2 minutes max. But that's 2 minutes is a good amount of time to sit and go, hey, how you doing?
That's why I always envy the guys that have the line of people, because it's like you have that excuse. You're like, hey, I got to keep the line moving. Thank you so much for being here. But I don't have a line. I got the one.
Right.
We got the group.
It's always easier too when you have another show. You're like, well, the second show's coming in. I tried to pull that in Des Moines. I was like, oh, the second show. And I look and like there's literally 0 people. I'm like, oh, we got a second show coming in. They're like, second show? What? There's nobody here.
I've only went to one book signing, but I feel like that's like a good way to meet and greet because you have the book that completes the deal, And then you can have your line when they're signing it. You're like, I love chapter 2. And they're like, great. And they give you the book back. And then you get your moment. And then, you get something out of it. I feel like they should do that for comedy. We should sign something.
I've told this during the podcast before too, but I got so devastated one time. There was a baseball player named Marty Barrett and for the Red Sox back in the 80s. And he was doing a book, not a book sign, just a signing, a meet and greet signing thing at a liquor store. Because they would have an athlete come in and you'd go there to get their autograph and people would buy booze or whatever.
Right. Promotes the store.
So we would wait in line. I waited in line for like 40 minutes to meet Marty Barrett. And I was like so nervous. I was like 7 and I was so excited. And then we were like next up. It was the people in front of us and next up. And then the liquor store owner guy came up and was like, Marty, you're almost out of here, man. 20 more minutes. Just hang tight and you're through. And it like devastated me because I thought I was 7. I thought Marty Barrett wanted to meet me.
Yeah.
And to hear it, it was like so heartbreaking that I was like, oh, he hates this. he's really bummed and
he's
doesn't want to
here.
be here.
He just has a lot of gambling debts he needs to pay off.
Yeah, like he wants like the free Captain Morgan or whatever. And I remember I felt it when I shook his hand. I was like, "Hey, Marty, sorry." And that's probably in my head too. You talk about learned behavior. When I meet someone, they're probably like, they hate this. I know they want to be out of here.
Yeah, brutal. It's just like what was it, The Bronx Tale, where he's like, does Mickey Mantle care about you or whatever? Like whatever. I forgot the guy's name already, but he doesn't care about you at all.
Right. Yeah, they don't care. God damn it.
They don't.
Well, that reminds me of another story, a baseball story with the Red Sox, where Carlton Fisk hit a famous walk-off home run in Game 6 of the '75 World Series. Another reference to Good Will Hunting. Well, it's not a reference to Good Will Hunting, but Good Will Hunting references it. Anyways.
Okay.
But I remember watching this interview with Carlton Fisk because the like fans are running on the field, and I relate to this in comedy, by the way, but someone tries to shake his hand. And he's like, I remember seeing this guy and being mad and being like, what are you doing getting in on our celebration? This is ours. And they realize the team, they're a team of people. They've been traveling together on a plane. There's 25 guys for like 7 months. And us fans are like, me too. Right. And he's like, get the fuck out of here. Go in the crowd and clap. Do whatever you guys want to do. But this is ours. You can't celebrate with us.
We worked hard and trained our whole lives for this.
Yeah,
we watch TV.
I remember having that with an old manager of mine and being like, I'm going to come. And she's not even in the business anymore. But she's like, I'm going to come to your taping because I'm your man. And I was like, you're not part of this. I'm like, you were like, it was actually an agent. It wasn't a manager. It was an agent. And I'm like, you're not, I don't even know you. Why would you be there for this monumental moment? You represented me for like 6 weeks. And I'm like, this is my thing. But that was a window into fandom too. And it's like we talked about earlier. It's like this separate, like the Pearl Jam thing. It's like there's those, the team means so much to me because I grew up with that. It's learned and that's generation. So I love the team, but the team is not they don't care about me, nor should they.
It's like the same thing when you ever have this where something goes viral or something, you get somebody from high school messaging you like, I can't believe you're on here. I've been working, man. Where were you? You know, like it just seems like I get like kind of mad at that.
I have that
like,
with
now you talk to me.
Right.
I came home and did my home club like after I did the Late Show, and a guy comes over and goes, "This is Susie. She went to high school with you." And then she says hello, and I'm like, "We've never spoken. You now claim me as going to high school with you, but I didn't go to high school with you before, probably."
Right. Yeah. It's like now it changes.
Yeah.
Now that I got a huge dick. Andrew, do you know about Steve's cock? I mean, have you seen it? You guys are very close from what I understand.
I've never seen it, but I'm kind of close with his girlfriend, and our girlfriends my girlfriend's a comedian too, and used to live with Caitlin.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
So I would go over there, and I don't know if this is a false memory, but I think one time I heard them having sex.
Steve and Caitlin?
Yeah, it sounded like
your girlfriend, Caitlin.
No. Oh my God. No, but it did sound like Kayla was having a good time.
Oh boy, Steve. My God.
I did not know this, and now I can't look. I honestly can't.
But
look.
I think maybe Maddie heard it. That's my girlfriend's name, and came in and told me about it. And I think I heard it, But
Steve is just someone I can't imagine having sex. I try so hard, but he just feels like such a little like wind up toy of a boy.
Well, maybe that's what happens. He just like one action.
Yeah.
Well, you got to pump it up.
But anyways, let's rein it back in now. Andrew, you're a therapy guy. You go to therapist?
Yeah, I go to the same therapist as Steve, and he told me about her. But I'm now having my doubts about our therapist.
I love her.
Now, what is it? What do you doubt? Give me some examples.
Okay, so I have two examples. One is I was in a dark place, I think like a couple weeks ago, and I was like kind of reliving all the bad things that I went through. You ever have that where you're like in a dark place, so you're like, oh, well, I'm down here. Might as well kind of enjoy these dark moments.
Oh man,
might as well pile it on. You ever have that?
Yeah, a little bit, but that sounds. In theory, that sounds good. If you're down there, you just accept it, and you're like, all right, well, I'll enjoy being here because this will end because it's impermanent.
Yeah, right. I don't know. That's how. So I talked to her about other things I was thinking about. She's like, "Oh, that again?" That was her reaction. Was like, "Oh, you're still worried about this?"
Oh, I like that. That's what my therapist is like that all the time. He's tough. He's like, of course.
I love
you're a
the I love
pussy.
the tough love thing.
I want to be like, let's talk about it again. Obviously, it's bothering me.
Yeah, well, she should talk about it again.
But she kind of dismissed it, or maybe I felt bad for bringing it up.
No, my therapist is like, yes, you're a pussy. You're tough. You haven't changed anything. You're not suffering enough.
I didn't know your therapist was a vampire.
Jew vampire. It's all very similar.
Your insurance plan 9 from outer space. So the
what was the other example?
Okay, so then whenever I talk to her about a problem, she always wants to solve it, but she doesn't know anything. Like I was telling her about, I was like kind of worried, and I just kind of build up worries. I write them down to talk about her with, and I'm like, oh, my following, my Instagram followers are going down, and she's like, well, have you tried using hashtags? I'm like, what?
Oh,
I'm like, oh,
that's off-putting. Hashtags. I don't want my therapist talking about hashtags.
Yeah. So Steven, has she ever done that to you?
No, but I haven't gone to her with that, with a social media.
Yeah, I had a social media thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve is right on here. I mean, you should be talking about your parents or whatever.
I know,
you're
but
talking about your social media followers.
Like, go to me about your social media.
I kind of unload everything on her. That I kind of write it all down, and I feel good. I feel like I feel like I went through like a dishwasher or something when I unload all these little worries I have. Well, but sometimes I don't like the response.
Nothing feels better than unloading on a woman. You know what I mean? Right on her tits.
Yeah, Andrew heard me do it.
Yeah, sounded like it was good.
But to me, like my therapist, if I brought up a social media, like sometimes it's all accepted. So he's like, all right, so maybe you're losing followers. So what? So why does that upset you? What's wrong with that? I'll be your therapist. So what's the problem with losing followers?
Oh, I was on a roll, and then it just seems,
you're not on a roll now. You'll get them back, or you won't.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Why do you feel like you need followers?
Well, the whole career, it feels like it all hinges on that these days.
You think your entire career depends on a few Instagram followers?
Yeah, and I was also worried I'm afraid if I post certain thing on Instagram, they will go down.
Why are you worried? Why are you so worried about what these people think?
Well,
do you think it's good?
Follow me, and that might affect how I make money.
But do you like what you're posting? Do you think it's good?
Yeah, sometimes I do, but then after I post it, I'm like, maybe this isn't that good.
Don't think about it again. Just post it.
Yeah. What about what hashtag should I use?
I don't care about hashtags. I'm a therapist. I think I'm a better therapist. I want you to see me and give me $200 an hour.
Joe,
I'll give you a break.
That was like 1,000% better than the conversation I had with her. But she's also not a social media person. And one time I told her like, hey, I'm blowing up this week. I got like this amount of likes. She's like, I usually get 50. I'm like, I don't need to hear that.
You ever watch No Direction Home, the Scorsese movie about Bob Dylan?
No.
Oh, that's everyone's assignment. First of all, it's like the best movie of all time. It's Scorsese's second best movie. It's the best documentary ever. It's amazing, but it's unbelievable. But basically, Bob Dylan was beloved as this folk singer. Then he went electric and started a rock and roll band, which was amazing. And then he's getting booed off stage, and they go boo, and they say, "You're a traitor, Judas." And he says, "I don't believe you." And then he turns to the band and he says, "Play it fucking loud." And then he just kept doing whatever he wants to do. Bob Dylan's not going, well, I don't know, I got booed a little bit. Maybe I should put out another folk album. Let me write a couple songs about, the voters' rights so I can get these people back. He just created what he wants to create, and he's fine. Fuck these people.
And it's more fun for him, too, because I watched those footage of him playing at the folk festivals, and the people are just sitting there looking at him. Like they don't, with folk music, in rock and roll, they go, woo, and like mosh and stuff. And folk music, they're just staring at him like he's doing a reading in a library or something.
Yeah, it's fucking rock and roll.
Yeah, I could see why he wanted to get away from that. It looks so boring to go to a folk concert.
But yeah, he's done doing that. Whatever, you posted something. So who are these fucking idiots that are unfollowing you because of some post? They weren't going to see you. Who gives a shit about them?
Yeah. Well, Steve, I mean, I hate to bring him in, but it'd make me feel better about it. But he gets that too with, we've both been posting on TikTok and he'll get negative comments and be like, I'm not doing that anymore.
Well,
I'll be
TikTok
like,
sucks.
I know
it does suck, but I think that Joe's right, and that it's important to remember we should just make what we like.
Yeah, I know. And I feel like this has been in my head too, where I'm like, whenever I post, it's got to be a banger, like, do you ever have that where some people just post every day and they get more followers because people are like, oh, this guy at least is posting every day. It's something to follow.
Yeah, no, I think that all the time. I have the same thing because I post nothing but photos of landscapes and the sunsets and the trains and whatever. And people that post clips and content, they got thousands and thousands of followers and it blows up. And I probably should do that, but I like expressing myself that way. I like these photos, and then a few hundred people like them, and I go, great. I like people going, hey, you got a good eye for photography. Now, sure, I don't sell tickets whatsoever.
And there's no second show at the Des Moines Funny Bone.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody comes to it, but whatever. It'll come in different ways. And, like 300 people listen to this podcast, and it takes a lot of time, and it's consuming. But I got a bunch of emails from people that say this podcast is a huge part of my life, and thank you. So I got that instead of money.
Well, the thing I love about you, Joe, and is a thing that I think Andrew could do, because the two of you are two of my favorite people to watch, and you create my favorite things, is you're just making what you love, and the people that love you. It's not like they're just like, oh, let's go see this guy. It's an event to go see you. Like every show, we had people that love Joe List and what he makes.
Oh, I think that's true for me. I'm not sure about Andrew, but I do.
I think on a smaller scale.
I think Andrew can get there by just making what he likes and not worrying about who comes. Is just they will come and they will love him for what he makes.
People will come, Ray. That was a Field of Dreams reference. People will come, Ray. That's a pretty good James Earl Jones.
That was good.
Moonlight Graham. Anyways, Andrew, what were you going to say? Sorry, I cut off. I insulted you and then cut you off.
Oh, I don't remember. I was confused by who you're impersonating.
That's James Earl Jones. Luke,
I thought it was your therapist.
I am your
again.
father. All right, we got to wrap it up, but plug this podcast again. Panic Attacking. It's a takeoff of my podcast.
It's a spinoff. Joe, can we post this episode as ours?
Yeah, after mine comes out.
Oh man, when does yours come out?
Possibly never. I got to go back through. There was some weird racial stuff. I got to cut it out. Yeah, it's a crossover, but I mean, you got to give me the juice here. I mean, I had you on my pod. I did your pod before. Remember, it was horseshit because the sound sucked.
Oh yeah, you can have this one. Yeah, we got one lined up for this weekend. So
no, but take this one after too. It's a crossover.
After.
Do you post on YouTube, Joe?
I do.
Oh crap. Okay.
What? No good.
He's already trying to get more numbers than this one. We're gonna get.
What? It's gonna be huge. It's gonna be huge.
All
right. I believe. Yeah, I know.
Take it. You're already worried about the followers again.
I know. I am.
Yeah, fuck the followers.
We just got to create.
We do. We got to put stuff out.
Yeah, we just create. Don't worry about the followers.
You guys are great. You're wonderful people, and Panic Attacking. That's what it's called, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Panic Attacking podcast. Go listen to my episode. It's perfect.
It is good.
We have it on YouTube. So our YouTube URL is youtube.com/panicattacking.
Hell yeah.
Or maybe
go check it out. Subscribe to their podcast. Subscribe to this podcast. Leave a nice review and keep writing these nice emails. Reach out to these boys. They're wonderful people, and follow them on Instagram. Go follow Andrew Schiavone and Steve Rogers.
Yes.
Thank you,
please.
Joe.
Thank you for having us, Joe. It was so fun.
Thank you. You both got huge dicks, I assume. Andrew, how you doing? You packing? What's going on?
I don't know.
I didn't hear anything coming from Maddie's room. So
All right. Hey, this is a great episode. Thanks, guys.
Mindful Metal Jacket is hosted by comedian Joe List. Produced by Joe List. Edited by Matt Kleinschmidt. Executive producers Robert Kelly and Matt Kleinschmidt for the Laugh Button Podcasts.